Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
First is parenchyma. Alright, so in parenchyma, if you see the diagram, this is the transverse section while this one is the longitudinal section. So they have large central vacuole, they are uninucleated, nucleus is towards the periphery, the wall, the cell wall is thin. Okay, so these are the most widely distributed tissue in the plants. Alright, they form the basic packaging tissue. They are unspecialized living cells. The cells are loosely packed. There is large intercellular spaces between them. They provide support to the plant. Okay, the mesophyll of the leaf contains parenchyma, which is called chlorenchyma. Alright, this chlorenchyma contains chlorophyll, which you know helps in the photosynthesis. Right, so one of the function of parenchyma present in the leaves is photosynthesis. Next, the parenchyma also stores food in the form of starch, proteins, oils and fats. In aquatic plants, parenchyma, they provide buoyancy to the plant. They make the plant lighter, which helps the plant to float over water. So, such parenchyma, they are called aerenchyma. Another function is secretion. Some specialized parenchyma, they secrete resins, latex, tannins, oils, etc. Some of the parenchyma present in xylem and phloem, they help in transportation. Parenchyma also provide mechanical support to the plant. So these are the characteristic features as well as functions of the parenchyma. Next type of simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. Look at this diagram, you will understand the collenchyma, the cell wall is irregularly thickened. At some portions it is thickened at the corners. Okay, the cellulose because of deposition of cellulose. Otherwise, they have nucleus, they are living and they have a large central vacuole. They are present below the epidermis of the stem and leaf stalk. They provide mechanical support. Okay, the most important function is they provide flexibility. The plants, the stem, the leaves, they can bend without breaking because of the presence of this collenchyma. It gives flexibility to the plant. Then these cells are living. They have cell wall is irregularly thickened at the corners because of deposition of cellulose. They have less intercellular spaces as compared to parenchyma and the cells are elongated. As you have seen in this longitudinal section, the cells are elongated. Okay, this is the transverse section. The third type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. In sclerenchyma, as you can see in this diagram, they are long but with tapering ends, not cylindrical. Then the cell wall is highly thickened because of the deposition of lignin. There is absolutely no intercellular space. You cannot see any nucleus also. So these cells are dead. Okay, and the lumen, that is the central part of the cell, is quite narrow because of thick cell wall. Okay, so let's see the characteristic features of sclerenchyma. The cells are dead. Cell wall is thickened due to deposition of lignin. They makes the cell parts hard and stiff. So whatever the part of the cell, if you feel it is hard and stiff, that is because of presence of sclerenchyma. The cells have narrow lumen. The cells are closely packed. There is no intercellular space. There are two types. First is the fibers, which are called sclerenchymatous fibers, sclerenchymatous fibers. They are long and narrow. For example, the coconut husk of the coconut, those fibers are actually made up of sclerenchymatous tissues. The other type is sclerites, which are the grit cells, granular cells. For example, if you eat a pear, you will notice the gritty feeling. That is because of the sclerites, which are actually the sclerenchymatous tissues. Then the main function is providing strength because these are dead tissues, so they provide toughness and strength to the plant. They are present in stem, around the vascular bundles, in veins of the leaves and hard coverings of the seeds. So all the hard parts of the plant contains this type of tissue. So I hope the difference between parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma is clear to you. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. So you can perform this activity in your lab. Okay, for this you have to take a Rio leaf and just stretch it and try to break it. So what will happen? The upper layer will separate out. Just peel the upper layer and keep the remaining part on a slide, stain it with safranin or any other stain, put a cover slip over it and observe under the microscope. So you will see very thin flat cells. Okay, so these cells are actually the epidermis. Overall the plant, the outer covering is called the epidermis. All right, so this is the cross section of the leaf in which you can see the stomata, the opening, which we'll study in detail. So epidermis basically forms the outermost layer of the plant body. Okay, usually it is single layer of the cells. In xerophytes, xerophytes means the plants which grow in the dry regions, like in deserts, for example, the cactus plants. So in this, the epidermis is thicker to prevent the water loss, because already there is so much scarcity of water. So plant does not want to lose the water. So these epidermal layers are thick with a coating of cutin. The cutin is a waxy coating which does not allow the water to evaporate. Okay, so water is stored inside the stem and the leaves. Then this epidermal layer, they usually secrete a waxy water resistant layer outside, which protects against the water loss and against the parasitic fungus. So this waxy layer actually is impervious to exchange of gases or attack from the microorganisms or water loss. So it is basically a protective layer, outermost layer. Then next feature is it is a continuous layer. There is no intercellular space. All the cells are joined one after the other. The cells are flat. Outer and the side walls are thicker, usually thicker than the inner walls. So outer walls are thicker to become more protective. In leaves, these epidermis, they contain tiny pores which are called stomata. They are on the underside. And in roots, they have special outgrowths, which are tiny outgrowths, which are called root hair. They help in absorption of water. So there are actually certain special characteristics in the epidermis depending upon where it is present and what function it has to perform. But overall, all the characteristics are similar, that the protective layer and cells are flat. There is no intercellular spaces. So let us study some special features about epidermis. First is stomata. So you must have studied in the previous classes also about stomata. Stomata are the tiny pores present on the underside of the leaves. Okay, so they are actually, there are two guard cells. This is how you can draw them. These are two guard cells, kidney beans shaped cells. Okay, these guard cells contain chloroplast as well as nucleus. Okay, and this pore is actually the stomata, and singular is stoma. Apart from this, other epidermal cells do not contain chloroplast. It's like this. So they are bounded by the guard cells, which are kidney shaped. The guard cells contain chloroplast. There are two main functions. First is the gaseous exchange. Alright, so during photosynthesis, plants need carbon dioxide and oxygen is released as a byproduct. And during night, what happens? Only respiration is taking place, so plants take in oxygen. So whenever gaseous exchange takes place, this takes place through this stomata in the leaves. And another important function is transpiration. I hope you know what is transpiration. That is releasing excess water in the form of vapors through stomata. So this transpiration is a very important function. It creates a suction pull in the xylem. What happens? We'll study about xylem later on. What happens? In the roots, the water is absorbed and it is to be transported upward against the gravity towards the leaves. So we need a suction pull which will pull this water upward. Okay, although it happens through diffusion, but that pull is created by the transpiration. Since the water is released in the atmosphere, so it creates a suction pull. More water comes up through xylem. So, and this also helps in keeping our environment clean, cool, because more water vapors are released by the plants. So the two main functions of stomata are gaseous exchange for photosynthesis and respiration, and second is transpiration, which creates a suction pull for the water. All right. So the next special feature about epidermis is the cork. It is present in the older plants, the bark of the tree. If you have seen, The older plants, the outermost layer is hard and stiff and irregular. That is actually the cork. The cells are dead. They are very compactly arranged. There is absolutely no intercellular space. They secrete a chemical which is called suberin, which is impervious to gases and water. So the gaseous exchange or water exchange cannot take place through these cork cells. So they prevent the water loss or infection from any microorganisms from outside. So this is the structure of cork cells. You can see they are so compactly arranged with the thick cell wall, and there are no vacuole, no nucleus, because these are dead cells.